Hey. Welcome to another episode of This Shit's Hard podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Biscuiti.
And I'm Jen, aka Rumblebum. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to another episode of This Shit is Hard. I am coming to you live from Biscuiti, Butter and Biscuits residence.
Where I am not.
Is all the way in Salt Lake City, coming to you live from Hungryfitness. Her house, her beautiful house. And look at that. That is my two bosses, two boss ass bitches sitting right there together. They are actually my bosses.
When she says my boss, I literally died when she said that.
Yes, I am so inspired by them. I know this is the intro, but I always say what's on my brain and on my heart. And so I just have to get it out of the way that I love my bosses, and I keep going back because Nicole hates bosses. But that's what you are. So we're going to call you what you are. You're boss ass bitches, and you guys run shit, and that's what you do. Anyway, I love you both so much. Michaela, I have known for, I was trying to think about it and I actually can't remember, but it's been a while.
I think it's been since at least 2016, about.
Yeah, that sounds right. 2016, when I was working for a different company and she was in the CrossFit space, but she is the CEO and founder of Hungryfitness, who I get the privilege of working with and for nutrition coaching, workout programming company that specializes in sustainable approach for women in reaching their health and fitness goals. She is also a mom of, I like to kid, I've always joked whenever I put Michaela on the Instagram story, I'm like, this is Michaela. She's my badass mom. She has 50 kids and she beat Rich Froning. That's all I say ever about her. She has 4 kids. She has 2, which is still like 50, I should know. But she is also truly CrossFit Game team champ of 2017. And she did beat Rich Froning's team, the only team to beat their team. She is a badass bitch. That's why I say. She's always outside. She travels and hangs with her family and, just runs shit. That's my intro. Nicole.
That was an amazing intro. She's like, Nicole, now back over to you. Love that.
I know. Do I look at you or do I
look there?
That's fine. We might accidentally graze.
Yeah. So Michaela and I are sitting quite literally next to each other in her home office, which is beautiful. I just flew in from sunny South Florida to snowy.
There's Salt Lake. 6 feet of snow out the window here. She loves it here.
I literally said to her, when I leave, you're pulling the car out because I'm terrified.
Yeah, I'm sitting in very sunny weather, so.
So I think what we'd like to start with is, how did you get here? How are we here?
Oh.
Where'd you come from? Where'd you come from and how'd you land here?
That's a good question.
It's so cool that you're doing, and for people who are listening and watching, Michaela has a lot going on, and she's always planning the next thing. I mean, I just came in, she's like, oh, it might smell like salmon because I was recording earlier, we were filming, we were doing recipes, and this is just one aspect of her life. We're talking about doing women's wellness retreats with a huge focus on health, obviously, and sustainable health, and that's just a small little tip of the iceberg.
Tiny sliver.
It's crazy. Sliver. Is probably how I ended up here.
I think all entrepreneurs have to have a little crazy in them.
Yeah.
Just a little.
And yeah. I feel like, I don't know. I'm super passionate. I guess that's probably one word that describes me is I when I have my day, just all the things mapped out, it makes me feel excited. And if I'm working towards things, then I feel alive. And I think I'm a natural cheerleader. So I love to like help other people recognize that they can do whatever it is that they want in regards to their, health and wellness goals, or if it's like a career goal or a parenting goal. It doesn't need to be perfect, but you can just move forward in the direction of whatever it is you're passionate about. And so I think I love to learn more about things I am excited about. And so that's definitely what spurred me into the nutrition and fitness space. Like, I've always been an athlete my whole life, and nutrition is a big part of performing well. And then also on the physique side, it's always fascinated me. And so I just have, tried to learn everything I could get my hands on over the last decade plus. And it just naturally, people started coming to me with questions, and I wanted to help other people understand the things that I was learning. And so just kind of my passions have turned into businesses for me. And it's been pretty natural, I think, just because I like building and growing things. So yeah.
And it seems like it has been a natural transition, as long as I've known you were in the CrossFit space. And then it was kind of like, you flowed naturally into the space that you're in now. The transition, I noticed it was just kind of like a natural progression.
Yeah. It's almost like, there's sometimes there's things in life, there's moments in life where you're like, okay, I almost feel like I didn't even make the decision here. It's just everything started happening. Like, maybe you made one small, tiny little choice and then your whole life changed, and it was almost out of your control. I feel like it wasn't like I one day wanted to just, I'm going to start a nutrition coaching business. It was, I'm talking about the things I'm excited about and people want to know more. And then I started just kind of naturally taking on clients at the gym. And then I switched more to the online space when I had my twins a little over 9 years ago. As like Instagram was becoming a thing, I was sharing on there too, and just switched to more online work because I had to. And then I never really advertised, but always took clients on like as I could, as I was also competing, because that was my main focus. And then after we won the CrossFit Games in 2017, the next week I found out I was pregnant with my fourth.
Wow.
And so yeah, I missed my period. The week before the games, and I didn't think about it. Like, definitely didn't think I was pregnant. I was just like,
probably like high volume, I'm stressed.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we're traveling, I don't know. So I didn't think about it until the week after. I was like, oh, I never started that. Maybe I should take a test. So I switched gears really fast from CrossFit Games to, I'm having a baby. And then after that, I was kind of like, everything I'd wanted to get out of CrossFit, I kind of had. I still had thought about competing as an individual, but the format changed a lot as I was pregnant, and I kind of lost interest in doing sanctionals and all of that versus just like the open regionals, the games. I think I would have tried again if they had kept the format the same, but that was enough to kind of push me to want to do things differently. And then at that point, when I wasn't competing anymore, I had a lot of more time on my hands, and just decided to really dive into coaching more full time. So, and then that quickly evolved, and I couldn't take on the clients once I did start advertising. And so then I just felt natural to build a team. I never envisioned being where I'm at now. We have 6 coaches on our team, 7 including myself. And I definitely didn't set out with that goal, but it just like naturally, okay, these coaches are at capacity. Okay, we can bring someone else on, which is very, what's the word? It's amazing. I'm super grateful to have the team that I do. I still can't believe that I do have the team that I do. And then
I can attest to that. They're all amazing women.
They're incredible, and they care so much, and they're so educated, and it blows my mind that they want to work for me and with me. And
well, of course they do.
but
amazing.
Of course they do.
I feel so excited to be able to place clients that come to me and trust me in the hands of such amazing coaches, and know that they care as much as I do about partnering with them and reaching their goals. So,
are all of your clients women?
So we have men and women as clients. We definitely will take on male clients. But what I have found is most of who we reach and most of who want to work with us are women. I think like 85% of my followers are women, and probably the 15% that are men like know me. They're like, they grew up with me, or, you know, whatever. So I mostly am speaking to women. So we advertise to women, but we do get men that want to work with us from time to time. And that there's coaches on my team that feel really comfortable and love to work with male clients as well. Mm-hmm. We just don't target men for that reason. Yeah.
What would you say is for you or for other like women, this whole idea of you can have balance, of work-life balance? You have 4 kids, you're running a business, you're married. What are your thoughts on being able to do everything at 100% or not being able to do everything at 100%? Because people have a lot of different views on work-life balance. But how does it work for you?
It's funny because if you would have listened to a podcast I recorded maybe like 8 or 10 years ago, I was probably trying to explain like, oh yeah, I have balance, and like trying to like explain how I balance things. And it's so not true. Like I think during that time I wanted to have balance, and like I felt like I was striving for balance. But as time has gone on, I know I for sure don't have balance. I have times where, you know, I have all these different buckets of what's important to me, my children, my husband, my work, my own health and wellness, you know, community, friends, all of those things are really important to me. But different times of my life or year or week, like different ones need to take priority. And so I am like, I feel like I have moments where I feel, oh, things are really balanced. Like maybe I got in some work tasks done. I'm feeling really good there. I got in a workout. Like I played a game with my kids. Like that might feel like a really balanced day. Mm-hmm. But then the next day is like shit hits the fan, and one kid like needs to be somewhere and I have to find them a ride. And then I have all this work stuff that comes up. I miss family dinner. Craig's doing more than he, you know, would like to on the home front. And we're just doing our best, you know? So I think recognizing the goal, maybe the goal for me is to have different things take priority first, like to get my health and wellness. That's number 1, take care of myself. And then maybe spending quality time with Craig and the kids is number 2. And then fulfilling work responsibilities would be number 3. Maybe that's like what feels best to me. But sometimes like today, for instance, I don't get time to do my workout, and that falls behind because I have work priorities. And, you know, Craig's running errands for me with the kids. So I'm not doing much. He's going to take the kids snowboarding today while I do a live cast. And so I'm going to tuck them in and count that as quality time probably tonight. So just like, I think checking the boxes and looking at how you're doing and how you're feeling with each of the things that are important to you. And then recognizing if something is important to you and you're not showing up in that area, like, okay, can I tweak some things? Can I make adjustments? It's not like, oh, I'm a bad person and I'm going to feel a bunch of guilt here. It's more just, all right, this week didn't quite go, like my values and things that are important to me weren't aligned in the way that makes me feel good this week. So like, how can I kind of shift focus next week? Or just knowing like, that's the case. Work has to take priority right now. Like when you run a business, like it falls on you. And so if things are important or coming up, like it's my responsibility to take those things on. And that means I have to sacrifice some other things. And that's part of life. And that's okay. Yeah.
So a couple of things there to reflect back on
my ramblings.
No, it was good. It was great. It's great. When you have those like check-ins, are you doing that with yourself, with you and your husband, or both?
Both.
Okay.
I would say both. Definitely myself. I feel like I can feel a little bit like anxious if I'm not taking care of my health, if I'm not spending quality time with my kids, or if I am really behind on work and I feel like I need to be doing things there. So checking in with myself, assessing like, okay, what's priority for the day, and then making a short list of what I can do today versus like letting it spiral out to, oh crap, like I'm failing in all these areas. Just like a short list. And then with Craig and myself, he's self-employed also. So he's busy and working, but also flexible. And so we have it's not a perfect system. Like we're always adjusting, but communicating with each other and letting each other know, okay, I need this, or can you help me here? You know, give and take has been really helpful for us to both do what we like to do with work, but then also show up on the home front, like in the capacity that we want to. So
I'm so impressed. I'm always so impressed with moms in general. And JB, who you'll probably meet at some juncture, at least on Zoom or
yeah,
something, who runs our warehouse. She's a mom, and we always joke about how moms are going to run the world. Like we just
it's true.
everything that is an issue or a challenge, we're like, just let the moms solve it. Just let the moms take over. It's like it's your ability to be so flexible and not get attached to a certain result because you know that
so much is out of your control.
Right.
Yeah.
Like who moved. She just started her business. She's like, we're gonna move the family to Costa Rica for 3 years. She's like, sorry, my daughter just decided to projectile vomit all over the place, so we had to cancel that meeting. And but it's just like this is what the moms are dealing with. But I wanted to also go back to how you like kind of said you're going to check in with yourself on what feels right. I heard one time during like my corporate days when I worked for Bloomingdale's that there's no such thing as priorities, plural. There's only one priority.
That's true.
Because the human brain,
there's a hierarchy, right?
Right. And we only use at the most 13% of our brains anyway. I'm probably using 2. I'm going to be honest. I'm using like 2 to 3%.
I gave most of mine. I think to each child.
3.5% over here.
I'm still looking for the rest. But so with that, we can't actually process all of that information. And how can you have priorities? Do you feel that that's true? That you like really have to narrow in on one at a time? Or how do you organize your life when you have like all these goals?
I think it shifts time to time. Like I did a values lesson or practice, something
already
like that.
Speaking my language. I love it. Can I do it?
Yes. I did one in therapy, and she made me like rank values, and I had to do like not important, extremely important, kind of important. And you could only have, I think it's seven in the very important list. And then you could have like 7 in the important, and all the rest had to go. And so you want to be like, I value honesty. I value generosity. I value, you want to value everything. Like I'm a good person. I value everything. That matters. That's important. And but you had to choose because of that. Like there's a hierarchy and they cancel each other out. And so one has to take priority over the other. So I did it, and she's like, okay, I hate to tell you this, but we have to get rid of all of the important ones too. You're only keeping the 7 very important ones. And so then I'm like, crap. And so I could have spent probably 3 days like overthinking it, but she just gave me like 15 minutes, 10 minutes to like, you have to just choose. So it forced me to like just eliminate a lot of things. And it was interesting to see those 7. And then it's not that I didn't think other things were important, but like I have to choose. And same goes with our day. And I think for me, family, it's hard because it kind of comes down to like which one needs the most focus right now. So family is always going to be probably number 1 for me. And I hate to say that it's above my own health and wellness, but it probably is. Like I will sacrifice myself for my kids right now.
I think that's most moms.
If they need, right? So that might mean, oh crap, my child needs me, then there goes my workout. If I can find a way to satisfy their needs and get a workout in, then I will do that. And same goes with work. Sometimes my kids are sitting on my lap and I'm working like really often, actually. Not the bigger ones, but like my 4-year-old. And so just sometimes I have to respond to their needs, but then it's also if I'm just constantly doing that, I feel drained too. And so at some point it's like, okay, you've got the kids. I'm going to go get a workout in because I'm feeling stressed now because I haven't had any time for myself. And so at different times, different values, if I'm neglecting them, then they do need to take priority. And I can feel that if I'm neglecting them.
I think it's seasons though, too. Everything's a season. Like they say,
your
kids are little for a season, then they're going to be grown. And then the season turns back to, okay, where am I? Let's evaluate where I am in my life and what priorities shift. where you have more time.
Yeah. And like, that's why I'm not competing in CrossFit as a master's athlete, right? My business is the priority now, and that requires a lot of my time and attention. And I know if I were to compete again, that would require a lot of my time and attention. Even if I'm not training, like I'm thinking about training, I'm thinking about everything that goes involved with that. From rest to eating to recovery, everything. And so to my next training session, when is it going to be? And all of those things. And so I had to kind of choose like one or the other there. I think because I am a mom, like I can't do it all. And I know that now. Where
Did
when
you
you're
ever
younger, I think some people probably say I do try even now, but I like doing things like it. That's what makes me feel alive. And so, yeah, I think it's all about perspective, right? Like something that might really stress me out isn't going to stress someone else out, and vice versa. And so I think we all are able to like carry different loads and things. Where like 6 years ago when I had, or 8 years ago when I had 3 kids in diapers, I was in a way different place than I am now where my kids are going to school. So I think different times of life can feel more stressful, and like I have capacity to take on more. And I've had times where I've had to just rest and not do as much too. And so, yeah, I'm okay with the ebb and flow of that. And I think one thing I have learned where, you know, maybe where if it's a season where I don't feel like I have much to give, that's usually a learning opportunity and like a time to tune inward and reflect, which I think a lot of us probably experience that during like the word we will not name. I don't want to get you guys banned on, you know,
right,
the Rona times when we had to scale back like in life, and that was super hard. But it brought a lot of reflection that we wouldn't have had otherwise when we were just going nonstop. And so I think there was like a lot of growth there for a lot of us if we're able to tune in and take like be okay with that downtime. Yep. And there's times like that all throughout our lives, you know. So I don't know if I answered your question, but
you did.
Yeah, that was great. So in true format of this podcast, what is one of the hardest things about your job?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, I mean, about my job. So talking about work.
Well, your career.
I would say, like, yeah, I'm like thinking, what area of life are we talking about? So
right.
Being an entrepreneur, running a business, I would say there's quite a few things that are hard, right? So one thing that that's always on my mind, and that is, I guess, a hard part of running a business and having people on your team is like every new person I bring on my team, whether it's a coach or on the goal assessment side or whatever it is, like it almost feels like when you have another child and you're like, okay, there goes my heart. So it's like I have one more person that I'm worried about and thinking about, and how are they doing, and like, you know, are they having growth opportunities? Am I giving them enough work? Like what's the long-term path here? Like, so that's something I constantly think about and worry about. Like I just care about my team, like their family. And so bringing someone new on is always scary because it's like, okay, do I have capacity for that, you know? And so that's something that is hard. Like, am I doing a good enough job as a boss? Because I have no idea what I'm doing, and it's just figuring it out as I go.
It's great.
And then
I think every boss feels like that at some point.
I'm like, how do people do this?
On the opposite end of working for you both, my two bosses, you're both doing a great job of running businesses. I'm a happy employee.
Good. Yeah, so that's hard. Like there's no blueprint here for how to do this, or maybe there is and someone hasn't sent it to me yet. So wanting to do a good job and do right by I don't even want to say employees because that just feels weird. My team. Yes. Yeah. And then also on the other side of it, like, am I doing enough to grow our business? Am I doing enough to provide education? Am I doing enough on the marketing side? Are our clients in a really good place? And like, are they feeling good and supported in their goals and empowered in their health and fitness journey. And then also, am I qualified to be doing this? Like, how did I get here?
Imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome is real.
Yeah. And I compare myself to people that I look up to in the industry, and I think, well, like, I'm not qualified to do this. And then, but then I think about where I was 10 years ago and how it's just been a super slow evolution to get here. But it's easy to have imposter syndrome, I think, as a business owner.
But it is at any level, and you really just need to like have a talk with yourself and get past it. That's like really just it, because it's really not true. Because you really are doing it. You're doing it, and you need to remind yourself. And actually, I saw a really great Instagram post like a couple years ago now by Harley, the guy who is the CEO of Shopify, where we all, where most retailers have their, sites hosted, and he talks about it even. That's crazy. And at that level, it's like he's literally running the store for every basically big retailer. Yeah.
Yeah. It helps when you hear other people like that you look up to say that. And I think the one thing that helps me there with the imposter syndrome is reminding myself I don't have to know everything to be a good coach or to be helping women in this space. I don't have to know everything. And as long as I admit when I don't, and I stay humble there, I think I still have plenty I can educate and give. That, and then also just being the hardest worker in the room. Like that's really important to me to work hard. And so if I just focus on like, okay, this is the next task, I have so many things that I want to do to continue making our business better and to grow. But instead of like zooming out on the big picture and getting overwhelmed, just thinking through like, okay, what's one system I can improve today? What's like one piece of educational content we can give out today? And just trying to zoom in on like a few things at once and just keep moving forward. And those two things help when I get overwhelmed with like everything.
I love that. Transitioning to a little bit more in your personal life, not so much business. Michaela and I have been able to connect over our religious, quote unquote, backgrounds. We come from different religious backgrounds. I come from, quote unquote, non-denominational, evangelical, woo-woo-y evangelical type things. No disrespect, but y'all know it's true. And my beliefs over the years have definitely shifted. I definitely don't believe in some of the same things that I believed in before. And it's been a long journey to that, a hard journey to that. That being said, Michaela and I have kind of connected over that and had, a lot of discussions, in person, and, we got to go hiking together, and that's similar but different. So if you kind of want to,
could you do a snowshoe hike?
That would be, actually, you would like that.
Yeah, I would. I'm not afraid of
I love snowshoe hiking. I love it.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
It's hard. Snowshoeing is hard. Anyways, so if Michaela, whatever, in capacity you want to expound, on that, maybe a little bit of your personal life and, your journey through that.
Yeah, this is something that I get asked a lot on Instagram, like when I do questions boxes, and I don't ever answer it
because people be nosy. We all know.
They stay nosy. They want to know.
People just want to know, and I think it's like an intimate thing, right? And so it's something that I will talk about if I feel safe and like I feel like there's mutual respect there. And I just don't know that I, want to get into those things on social media.
Well, you also don't know who the other person is. So it's like,
exactly.
And it can be taken.
Like if you're my friend, I'm going to talk to you.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I probably won't get too into like the nitty gritty details here, but during the pandemic, I personally did have a lot more time on my hands. And it was like a time in my life where I was able to hit pause on everything and a lot of the things I was doing, I wasn't doing anymore. And so it was like, wait, well, what do I think about these things? And for me, I took a really deep dive into my own beliefs, and I had a lot of heartbreak because of it. Like, I learned a lot of things that I was never told, and it was a huge, huge identity crisis for me. Like, faith crisis equals identity crisis, because we identify our identity is so wrapped up in our faith and our belief system. And so that was definitely one of the hardest things I've been through, but also one of the most empowering, like liberating kind of things too, because I feel like for the first time in my life, I'm 35. This was probably in the last 3 years. I asked myself, like, instead of, I realized I was outsourcing my own like personal authority in so many areas of my life. And I didn't even know that I was until I kind of had that moment. And it's been a process, lots of therapy appointments, a process,
We love
and
therapy.
lots of reflection, like figuring out what is true to me and what is important to me, and how do I want to live my life, and what does all this mean for me? And so I think, whether like religious or not, I think it's so important to ask yourself those questions and to like truly let yourself answer, and not think about how that's going to affect anyone else. Like, truly ask yourself, like, how do I feel here? Like, what is true to me? And as scary as that has been, and as hard as that has been, it's been like brought me a lot of peace too, which has allowed me to just like continue making baby steps forward into, how do I want to show up in life, and what does that look like for me? And that might bring on some judgment, and like, and does that mean I'm a bad person? Or, like, I think I spent the biggest question I really focused on in therapy that took me a while to like really get through was, all my life I've had this like checkbox of what makes a good person, like check, do those things, and like, I'm solid, I'm good. And I know a lot of those things I decided to no longer do, because I just didn't really believe that I needed to anymore, and like they weren't important to me anymore. And so then it left me with, well, am I even a good person? And like, well, what is a good person? And what does that mean to me? Like, what I think a good person is going to be different than what maybe you think a good person, just, we all have different values. And so then it came down to like, what are my values? What do I value? And how do I see if I'm like living within my values? And that's when I feel out of integrity with myself, when I'm not living in my values. And so really thinking through what those are, and recognizing too that our values shift over time, and that's okay. And so like, which ones maybe aren't, because they do have a hierarchy. So like, which ones maybe aren't as important to me now, and that used to be, and like, which ones are now more important to me. Like, obedience is not a big value of mine. It's actually never really been, but to me, like, just integrity is. So I don't know, there's been a lot of time where I've felt a lot of self-doubt, as my beliefs have shifted, and figuring out what that means for me in all of like my different relationships and stuff has been really challenging, but also has brought so much growth, like personally and with my relationships, that wouldn't have happened otherwise. So I'm grateful for it, and it can be really lonely. And so it is something I do want to talk about a little bit, because I think a lot of people can relate, and they feel like no one gets it, and no one's going through it. But but people are. And I think talking about it, if anything, like if someone is feeling alone in their own process, like that's my hope when I share, is to just let you know that you aren't alone. And hard doesn't always equal bad.
Right. And that's really why Jen and I offer this platform and ask a very wide variety of individuals to share, because, we no one person can have all of these different experiences. And so thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I've learned like through sharing online in other areas of my life, through like, you know, abdominal separation and like how hard that was to go through, and being vulnerable and sharing there. So many women reached out to me like, I didn't know anyone else had this. Like, I didn't know anyone was experiencing this. And so, and I couldn't find anyone when I was going through it. And so that's why I wanted to share. And so I think, yeah, it's like finding the right, you know, being sensitive and like not sharing too soon, but also because when you're going through something, like it's not always like, you do need to take care of yourself, and so it's not always the right time to share. But when you can, like sharing in a way that feels good to you, I think if it helps others, then I try to do that. So
You do. You know, coming from me, watching your Instagram, you do, you know, inspire and help a lot of people. And I know that you sharing the little bit that you have will help other people too in the same situation, because I think whether we think it or not, anytime I share a little bit of my religious background, you know, I go back and forth between what I share. I know I run my mouth a lot. And I try, and I mean, that's just the truth. But it's almost therapeutic for me in a way, especially when women reach out and are like, oh my God, thank you for sharing. I'm going through this time too. I'm going through this transition too. And people really, you know, the great side of Instagram is, yes, even though all the studies are showing that we are becoming more isolated, it is also on the other side of, oh, she's going through this too. Oh, she was a pastor's wife and now she's shaking her ass. How did you get from being a pastor's wife to shaking your ass?
You can do both, though.
You can't do both.
At the same time.
I'm like, no, you definitely cannot do both. Devin's like, we're right.
Are we gonna have Devin's actual visual in here, because we really need to just get a little screenshot of your facial reaction
He
for
rolls
that one?
his eyes, he rubs his face, he looks up at the sky. But
It's good.
but it's, you know, a lot of people, you know, ask me, how did you go from there to there? How did you deal with your family? My parents are still extremely ingrained in the church. And I know at this point, I'm not going to change them, and I'm not trying to change them. They are who they are. But I think the biggest thing that I've learned in my transitioning from being so, I guess if you call it religious per se, or in the church, is that everyone should be allowed to have their own journey. Everyone should be allowed to ask their own questions. And like you're saying, answer that question for yourself in an honest way. And if you have peace about it, and you're not obviously hurting anybody, except, you know, in the, maybe your family gets hurt because you don't believe what they believe anymore. You know, like my mom will question me all the time, and I try not to argue with her. But I just say, you know, I respect you and you respect me. And that's just how, you know, it's going to be. So we do appreciate you sharing that little bit that you share, because I know that it will help a lot of people to realize that, yeah, this is a wider spread thing, especially with religion, that I think more people are starting to talk about. You know, we have Motion Sustained, you know who he is, came out of a similar background as well. And I think more people are willing to share that story of, this is what it was, but this is who I am now, and this is who I am unapologetically.
Yeah, and I think we should be willing to let people grow and to be themselves. And if they are happy, and like, that's all we can hope for people. I think to see people in my life, like, and know that they're happy, that's all I want for them too.
Yes.
And so I think my hope is just that people can see my heart and where I'm coming from. And even if some things might look a little bit different, like, know that I'm doing my best to keep, like, to have integrity within myself.
Yeah.
And they can decide if they think I'm a good
You
person or
come
not.
to a very genuine person, Michaela. Like, as long as I've known you, you've been genuine. And I think there's this theme of people that Nicole and I both surround ourselves with, is very genuine, kind, honest people who have been through different journeys, but are helping people along the way. And I think that, you know, just like Kel's, like you all have that similar heart. like just are doing your best, but you're very kind and you're very genuine. And when you are that person, it comes through, and that comes through with you.
Also, I would add that it's none of your business what someone else thinks of you.
And that's kind of what I've like finally, I'm 35, by 40 I'll really have it down. But it's kind of what I finally have come to realize, at the end of my life, when I'm on my deathbed, whatever that is, am I going to be like, oh, I'm so glad I lived my life at the standard that so-and-so thought I should live it?
Right.
Or no, did I live the life that I am proud of, and like not even proud of, but like at peace with? And that's not easy. Like that is not an easy thing. And it requires asking yourself hard questions. It requires like talking about things that are uncomfortable. But that's where the peace does come, I think, is like continuing to do those things, even when they're scary, and how people perceive me is really none of my business. And as long as I'm okay with how I'm doing, which is always always a work in progress, right? I'm not perfect. I don't expect perfection either. And I also think realizing too, that sometimes it's not the difference between a right choice and a wrong choice. It's just a choice. And also making mistakes is part of life. I'm trying to teach my kids that, like, I should expect that same thing for myself. I'm doing the best with the information I have right now and making a choice with that information. Mm-hmm. And if I'm wrong, I'm gonna learn something.
Yeah.
I love that. That'll be part of it. That'll be part of my process.
I love that. Complete side note, and has nothing to do with anything she just said, but can we just talk about her arm? She reached her arm over, and I was like, look at that.
This girl.
Look at this. Reach your arm. Look at these arms next to each other. I thought I had a big arm. Look at your arm.
Michaela is like a truck. Okay, like no one's running her over. Like her freaking body.
I'm gonna go ahead and she's my personal security here for this trip. Not that I need it, but I would like you to hang out with me.
Let's just go back to she beat Froning. Okay, that's my that's my tagline for Michaela is she beat Froning. That for everything.
I saw someone post the other day, and it was like, dainty is cute or whatever. I agree or whatever, but like I'm built for function. Like I'm built for moving day. Like call me on when you gotta move something.
I love that.
And I was like,
so feminine at the same time. Like you're so feminine at the same time. I love it. It's like you're so like thick ass woman, but so like feminine, and like you have great style, and you're so like kind, and you're like, let me make you feel
Jen loves you. Which is
mutual.
It's so nice. I love this. And speaking of feminine and masculine, obviously every person has both feminine and masculine within them. Do you kind of like see that you go through phases, or and if you do, what phase are you in now? Because I'm kind of trying to figure myself out here too. I'm trying to lean into more feminine at the moment.
Yeah, if you could give me some tips, I'd love it.
It's hard for business people.
Energy, and I got my yoga teacher training a couple years ago, and I loved it. Like for anyone and that's kind of I guess I should preface this with not all YTTs are the same. I've learned that it's like stepping into a CrossFit gym. You're not going to have the same experience from one gym to the next, but if you find a good one, and even if you have no interest in teaching yoga, I don't honestly I kind of like yoga, but the whole philosophy and learning and introspection that came was so amazing. And I feel like it did teach me how to tap into more of that feminine energy of reflection and stillness. And it's hard for me though. Like I'm such a go, do, and that's how I feel alive. But I have been trying, I try to go on a daily walk once a day and get outside without distractions. And I feel like that is definitely like a balance there of
we do that.
Feminine to masculine. And that feels more like I'm able to have some reflection. And we're actually doing our challenge for Hungryfitness right now. And it's just 5 minutes a day of breath work. And that's like, taking time to tune in for me is really hard because I'm not getting anything like done, quote unquote done. So it's really hard for me to just prioritize sitting in
In
stillness.
your mind.
Like it's
It's
I
so
know
hard.
it's important, and I always am glad when I do, but it's like, if I've got a to-do list, that's going last, and then it's bumped off every time.
Yeah, because that shit's hard.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm really excited to do this 6-week challenge with all of our Hungryfitness subscribers, because that's like something that I know I need.
Mhm.
And most of the women we work with are kind of a lot like us. So I
Yep.
feel like they need it
It's gonna be
too.
challenging for
We have
everyone.
a lot of like driven women that come to us as clients.
Yep.
And
Which is why I'm sharing my cold therapy that I highly hate. But
How was it this morning?
I just want everyone to know that I went to the ocean, and
yeah, I wish I
I
was there with you. I hope
It's
you
so
weren't
pretty.
in the nude, because that would just
listen.
fold
The top I chose to wear, I forgot that it's see-through, and thank God there wasn't a lot of people on the beach, but there were a couple men walking, and I noticed there were, and I looked down and I was like, oh right. I immediately put my shirt back on. Anyways, it went. I you know why it went well? I think because I was so intentional about it this morning. I was like, I am gonna do it. I said it on camera. I have to do it now.
What was the temperature? Do you know?
I have
Of the
no
water?
idea.
Did
But
it felt cold?
the current wasn't ideal from the storm we just had, so it was pretty like
Yeah.
it wasn't graceful. So
Look at her. The storm we just had. She's at my house. This bitch. The storm we just had.
the storm that just came into me and my wife's house. It rolled
There's a
in.
storm. Yeah. No, I love it. I love
I
that
was
she's
very intentional. I got my steps in. I got my walking because I walked to the beach,
love that for you.
and I
Good.
had the best morning, to be honest. Like, I don't know if
Yeah.
it was the cold therapy or what, because I sat in the ocean, got out. I did my morning meditation. I watched the sunrise, and it's been a damn good day.
Yeah, I mean, you really can't like go wrong after, even if your whole day goes to shit after that. It's like, you had that morning and the day was great.
It was great
I
because
felt that way
I was
the day.
intentional, I think. And I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to do this every day that I'm here.
Do it.
Can
Yeah.
you tell us, though, why we're on this cold therapy issue?
I was just going to go there.
Yes, you're extremely knowledgeable, and I know it's coming up more and more and more and more with people. And some people roll their eyes at it, and some people are obsessed with it, Nicole.
The cold.
Yeah.
Can you give us what your knowledge on it and why it's good for you, etc.?
So you've been doing cold plunges?
I have. And I also listened to Andrew Huberman, who Jen told me you listened to.
Yes, I love
And
him.
I'm fascinated with the concept that I heard from you, which is you shouldn't be cold plunging after you work out. You should do it, on your off day or in the morning, and then train later.
Yeah, so there are some research studies that have been done on hypertrophy, and don't quote me because I don't remember how long they tested for, but cold exposure, especially plunging, I think that's what they tested on. It wasn't cold showers or like getting outside in the cold.
It's submersion.
It's submersion,
Yeah.
and it blunted inflammation, which is also going to impact hypertrophy, right? We need that inflammation for our muscles to grow. And so ideally not doing that right after you are lifting, because we want that inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
Doing it maybe before, which can be hard, or like later in the day or on off days is going to be, I think, more ideal, like a way to kind of hopefully get the benefits from the cold exposure, but not also blunt hypertrophy. And I think there's still a lot of research that's happening on this because this is becoming such a trend. And so I'm sure we'll continue to learn more, but for me personally, I don't have a cold plunge. I really want one. So I do a cold shower.
Same.
And I do it after I work out sometimes. Like, I'm really not that worried about it. I think we get so into the details that it paralyzes us. And so I just know I feel so good after I do it. And so if I can do it not right after my lifting, then that's great. But if that's the only time I have to do it, like, I'm not going to worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the dopamine response is 250 to 500% of your norm. for several hours later. So that explains like why you feel amazing after you do that. And I think I just had
this out all week.
Yes. And I just had a
back.
client, Marco Polo me, who's been really struggling to get up early to do her morning workouts. She is an OBGYN and she has a demanding job. And she really, really, really wanted to work out before she goes to work because after the end of the day, she's exhausted. She's like doing real hero stuff, delivering babies, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So she, we've been working on strategies for weeks now and kind of giving her different ideas, alarm clock in the other room, like all kinds of things. And she just started doing cold exposure last week. And she sent me a Marco Polo and she was saying, oh my gosh, I am able to get up early and do my morning workouts because now I know what I tell myself. Like when the alarm goes off, she says, I say, I was able to do the cold shower. I was tough enough to do that. Like, it's like giving her not just the benefits from the dopamine side, but like the actual resiliency mentally to remember every time she does it, I can do hard things and I'm capable. And so now when she wants to get up in the morning, like that's her goal, even though it's hard, she's like, no, I got this. I can do hard things. Like I can handle some discomfort. So I think even if it's just the mental side of handling some discomfort regularly, and that's how I feel about training too, right? Like exercise, when you push yourself physically to do hard things, you know you can do hard things in other areas of your life. Like I live and die by that statement.
Yes.
And so this is just a little sample of that. I think like an opportunity to embrace discomfort in your day, and it helps you feel like you're more capable when discomfort arises. Like you can breathe through it.
I love that. We have to wrap up, so we're going to ask you some rapid fire questions, but I will say I love discomfort training.
Yes.
And we can have a whole discussion offline about that too. That is so fun. So thank you so much for sharing with us. We are going to report back on the cold plunging. We're going to do check-ins with ourselves on whether we're standing in masculine or feminine. We are going to ask ourselves if we are living according to our values. So that was one thing that I took away from today's conversation that I really appreciate. So thank you for that. And we're gonna end with some very simple questions. I'm gonna ask you the one Jen hates because I just used your bathroom and I noticed that the toilet paper roll was on the floor. Right. So I couldn't.
It's usually on the counter.
So I couldn't answer this question. So we need to know.
Go ahead and ask.
If you had a holder, would it be over or would it be under?
My kids broke our holder in that bathroom, so I will say that. And it's okay. No, it's definitely. Wow. Now I'm like second guessing myself. It's definitely over. Yeah, it's over.
Okay.
But in this household, I'm the only one that replaces the toilet paper, so it's usually just on the toilet paper holder.
That's Jen.
Because no one in my house has
other things to do. We have other things to do.
Yeah, we got other stuff. I'm like, guys, you're sitting down, but no one. So now I'm just like, you know what, whatever. And then in that bathroom, it's just ripped off the wall, so it's who knows where the toilet paper is.
Bachelor pose. He really went there. I'm pulling up the other questions that we have. Okay. So now we just say a word or a phrase and you tell us what you think.
Okay.
All right. We'll start with festivals.
Ooh, chaos. I was going to say fun, but chaos.
Okay. And on that note, sunglasses at night.
Blue light blocking.
That's amazing. Does the woman who has, I noticed you do the red lamp.
Yeah.
Infrared. Yeah, that's amazing.
You know what's on her mind at all times.
Situationships.
Situationships?
That's an answer right there.
That's the answer.
That's the answer.
I don't know. Yeah.
That's all we need.
Like, I ain't got time. I've been married for 50 years and I got 20 kids.
Yeah, is that like a dating thing? I don't even know.
This is so great. That was our answer. Next and final is international travel.
Live by it. Like,
yes.
Yes. I'm trying to get our whole family to move somewhere international next year. And so that's like my current obsession. So.
Okay. Well, that's going to be our follow-up episode when you decide.
Yeah.
We're going to talk to you. We'll come to you.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
It doesn't matter where you go. We're
It doesn't
coming.
matter where you are. We'll come.
We're going to sign off with the mantra that also Jen never remembers, but she does embody and live it, and so do you. So Jen, as soon as you remember where we're going, you just chime in when you're ready. And we're going to end with, we are happy, we are healthy, we are wealthy,
and we are smoke
shows.
I like it.
And so are you.
I might need that. You guys can send it to me. I'll put it on like my mirror. Say it every morning.
Thank you so much for sharing with us today. This has been so much fun. Sitting so very close to you.
Yes. Thanks for having me.
Yes, we can't wait for this to release this to the public. Thank you.
Thank you.
We love you. I love you, bosses.